Hello everyone and welcome to week 3 of STYLETOBER. We are going strong still and I can't believe it already 3 weeks passed. I have a lot of goodies to show you this week, so let's get right into it. Day 16 and we have One Piece. Now, in order for me to talk about One Piece in the way that will make me satisfied, I will need an entire video for that. Because One Piece is a very dear anime to me. I love the themes One Piece is trying to portray. I love the influence One Piece has over the world. And I just love One Piece. And today I'm trying to design my own character as part of the One Piece world. Kinda hard because as a story I could go in so many directions. Ami would fit both the pirate and the revolutionary side of the story. So I decided not really to go deep into the action of what happens. I know One Piece is so integral to its world building. It's not just what do the main characters do, but it's also what happens in the world, which is part of why One Piece is so amazing. But I can't really do that in one day. Therefore, I only designed her as a pirate with a very interesting devil fruit. I had a lot of fun designing this. Ami has a paramecia type devil fruit which is called Compass Devil Fruit. Komasu no Mi. Basically, she became a human compass. How does that work? Well, her entire body became a compass. Similar to Pirates of the Caribbean, her inner compass is showing her what she truly desires next. The issue with this is, in true One Piece comedy fashion, that she doesn't really know what that is. So Amira is a wanderer that travels the world seeking adventure and just living her best life. She is the counterpart of Luffy's adventure because Luffy is a very driven character, driven towards adventure, driven towards freedom. While Amira will be similar, she is very goalless, she's very aimless. Wherever the wind blows, that is where she's going. And the trick that the audience would learn with her is that the compass, we don't know if it's really her desire that's driving the compass, or if something's broken, or coincidentally, of course, it drove her to the right places, but we don't know for sure if that is its use. That is just what she's saying. As a combat ability, Mira has two possibilities to use her Komasu no Mi, and that is one as a physical echo. Basically, if attacks are supposed to hit her, she can redirect them. So if a cannonball is coming towards her, she can use her power, change the direction of the cannonball. But there are two drawbacks to her power. One, she can only change direction from north to south or south to north, and from west to east or east to west. She can't really do curves, she can't really aim, she can't really do any of that. And the second drawback is that she feels the attack even if she's not being hit. So imagine the scene where she's being targeted by a cannonball and she's redirected it, and then suddenly she's actually on her knees because it hit her in her ribs. So basically you would say that sounds quite useless. Well, that is part of the charm of One Piece world, because there are devil fruits that in order for you to use them at their full potential, you have to be creative. And there is a second type of ability she has with this paramecia, and that is the counterpart of the physical echo, and that is the psychic echo. Basically, she can redirect your emotions. So for example, if you're feeling overconfident in a fight, she can use her powers to redirect that emotion in the opposite direction, again north, south, west, east, so you would feel very demotivated and unsure. The drawback of this one is that she's gaining that emotion, so she would suddenly be overly enthusiastic and confident, and maybe a bit too much even, and that is also part comedic and also part useful in certain situations. And it has the weakness that it can be countered by hacking, and that is the concept of her devil fruit. I think it's actually pretty fun. I think it fits the world of One Piece. And now about the design. I tried to design her with a few things in mind. One, to be different than Koala and Nami, both being redheads. Second, to keep in mind the heavy symbolism that Oda uses in a lot of his characters. And third, to fit the animation style of Toei. Now, I know the entire conversation around One Piece female characters being all the same. So while I can see that you will look at this art style and you'll be like, what the fuck? I agree that is something that could be improved, but it does have simultaneously one of the best female characters out there. For the design, I tried to incorporate a lot of angle shapes, a lot of arrows, as you can see me designing. That is because of the entire compass concept. I separated her outfit in half is very warm tones, very sandy, similar to a shore, and the skirt is symbolizing either the map of the world or the waters, and that is basically her outfit. It represents her outside as a compass, as a human compass. I added the tattoos to symbolize that as well. I altered her hair color a little bit to make her stand out from the other characters. I actually pulled a picture with Lo at one point because her hair looked a bit similar to his, so I didn't really want to go that way, and Lo has a moment when he becomes a woman. Don't ask, just One Piece logic. And I was safe from that, and she also looks a little bit like Bellamy, but that's fine. On the pants, initially I wanted to just have the round orange circles, but then I changed them because they were reminiscent of Nami's tangerines. So I changed them into these electromagnetic kind of design using the same red from her tattoos, and that is again because a compass works on that. The thing I like about One Piece is the very expressive expressions, so I put a very big smile on her face. This design for Ami, except the very short hair, which I did mostly for her to stand out from the other characters, it's actually very Ami. This is very similar to how I used to draw her in the past, and it makes me quite happy. To top it off, I added the noise texture and I played a little bit with the saturation and stuff just to make it look a bit more as in the anime. I was thinking if I could place her in an arc, but that also meant I need to change a little bit the way I color, because the sheer size of One Piece, they have quite a lot of different art styles within the show, so I had to kind of pick what feels most as One Piece and not necessarily as a watcher what section I would pick from One Piece. And I'm quite happy with the Compass no Mi Devil Fruit. Let me know what you think. Today is 17th of October and we have Cyberpunk Edgerunners, a anime set in the Cyberpunk 2077 universe. We have a story that has as core themes dehumanization through technology, capitalist exploitation, love and connection and fate, identity and rebellion. Things that Ami herself more or less goes through in her own story, where I have her as main character. The Cyberpunk Edgerunners universe, except the cyberpunk part, is going to fit quite well. Now the problem is as follows. Today was not a art day, and that's okay. I think many artists can relate to the fact that sometimes art simply doesn't work, and this is not about the break I was talking about in the Elden Ring day. This is different. This is simply a day where art just doesn't work well. No matter how much I tried today, you will see that this concept stays very rough and very concepty until the end. Amira's story in this universe will be within the theme of where do we cross the line, something that David himself is struggling with through the anime. In Amira's case, she's somewhere in the middle, where she is curious about this whole modding thing, but at the same time she's scared to lose her humanity, while at the same time being sort of street scavenger, repair mechanic kind of thing, somebody who repairs cyberware to sell but doesn't use much herself. Through her work, she'd met a lot of people who would be tempting her towards upgrading, quote unquote. Over time, I guess her morals would start feeling hypocritical, and that is a point of her story. Around this tragic inner conflict that's a little bit more silent than what else is going on in the story. Whenever I'm making these concepts, I almost always keep in mind the canon storyline because I don't make them in a way that would affect the story. For the design, I am unable to draw anatomy today, but I went for this kind of closed off, awkward, but also not pose. I gave her tattoos, I gave her the symbols of being a bear, I gave her the goggles, an outfit that fits the eccentric vibe of cyberpunk. If you're looking at my references, I actually wanted to draw her with the very strong lightning that you see sometimes in the anime, just to pull that cyberpunk vibe, but I just can't, my brain shut off, so I am ending this video today telling you that it's okay. It's important that I didn't give up and I still did something today. As always, remember to be kind to yourself and remember that these daily challenges are not do or die. They are meant to help you, they are meant to be fun, and if they aren't, it's okay to give 20% and not 100. Today's sketch took 35 minutes where I'm usually able to do a design in 2-3 hours, where I'm forcibly stopping myself to not spend the whole day on it. So it just happens. It's fine. Tomorrow we're going to do it better. Okay, remember when I told you that Amira was initially inspired by Lina? Well, that is true. But now you have the other side of the conversation, because not only Amira was inspired by Lina, but she started out as a Naruto OC. So let me get you down a memory lane. It's 2000 something and everybody had their Naruto OCs, and we called them back then RPC, meaning roleplay characters. Some people were more creative than others. We actually had such a big community that we started to recognize certain OCs or RPCs. Amira was not a big OC. Back then, I don't even remember her story. I do remember that her love interest was, can you guess it? It was Kiba. Not Naruto, not Sasuke, it was Kiba for me. So in honor for those times, because I have Naruto as my prompt today, I will be doing it the way I used to do it back then, and that is by editing, or with the new terminology that we know today, tracing the pictures. So that back then the idea of tracing a screenshot was not as looked down upon as today, which it still shouldn't be. You're not hurting anyone by trying to copy a style, but because a lot of people were starting art through OCs or through RPCs, a lot of us used these pictures as bases. We would edit on top of characters just to have the liking of the anime. And I actually started doing this in Paint back in the day. I started drawing in Paint, then I went to Paint Tool Sai, and only when I actually started to think of art as my job, I switched to Photoshop. So Photoshop never saw me doing this. This is a first. What you're seeing now on the screen of my character is a little bit of a blend between today and the past, because I am using similar techniques I was using in the past, just basically tracing the picture, but I am trying today to keep in mind the proportions and the style of the anime a little bit more than I did back then, because even if I was tracing on top, the hair especially, and this was the case for everybody, the hair had their own style or approach because everybody was doing it the way they wanted. There were some people that were keeping the same style of the hair as existing characters and they will just change the color. There is a fair way to create OCs. Like, I think today we are so afraid of being cringe that we stopped having fun. Who cares? The character is just Sakura with a different hair color. It's their character, let them have fun. We had so many weird things, like a character having all Sharingan and Byakugan and everything combined. A character being a Uzumaki Uchiha. It's fine. Nobody's hurting anyone by having a OPOC in a piece of media. Anyway, this is not how Ami looked back then. This is me today trying to adapt the style of Naruto, which is weird because in my head right now I have the image of the past and the image of today. I don't really like her hair right now, but it is quite correct. I don't like it because I'm used to Ami having much more detailed hair, because that was just what I was doing back then. We will trace even the shadows, and I was not able to do that right now because by instinct I changed a little bit the position of the picture, so I can't literally trace the shadows, but I still tried to keep them fairly similar to the original picture. And there's not much to say about this. This was very self-indulgent and not necessarily to study the style of Naruto, but more to talk about this phase in my life. And I hope you get from this that it's okay to have fun. Day 18, and oh my god, I cried before making this. And I guess this series is slowly becoming a what can we learn about Arab. When I rewatched the Burdens of Shaohao, the Blizzard short story, which by the way came 12 years ago, I am old. I cried. Because Blizzard has this amazing way of portraying the stories. I'm not even talking about the cinematics, I'm talking about these short animated videos that, oh my god, are so good. The Burdens of Shaohao, the Warbringer series, these quote-unquote less polished animations are so filled with emotion. Oh my god. So I wanted today to draw the Burdens of Shaohao because this style of a Chinese legend kind of story, it's so beautiful, and I just kept having it in mind every now and then for 12 years, and today I gave it a try. I started out by making a small square to kind of have a thumbnail feeling to it, to have it a bit easier to do all the composition. This picture needed a lot of textured brushes, and I didn't really get that watercolor vibe that the original has, but I wanted to capture the moment that the Sundering would attack or would hit. For those that are not aware, this is the legend or the story of the last emperor of Pandaria, who learned how to deal with his doubt, desperation, and anger in order to become the emperor that he needed to be, and more than that. Thanks to him, Pandaria was saved when the Burning Legion attacked, and his legend is shown through 6 short animatics or animations or dramatic shorts, or whatever you wanna call them, and how the Pandarian continent ended up being enveloped by mist. For my thing, there are a few reasons why I wanted to add this. One, because I want to be able to create such stories that make you feel the emotion, that make you look in the eyes of the character and make you feel for them. That is something that has driven me from the very beginning of me making art. Blizzard is not perfect, okay? I'm not talking about them as a company, I'm talking about them as the art they provide. And I think their cinematics, be it them the cinematic trailers or these kind of short stories, are some of the best stories we have ever got, and I still watch or listen to them from time to time, and they are still hitting that sweet spot of making me feel something. Asara's story is still so freaking good. This one, The Burdens of Shaohao, after 12 years, it's still so good. That is good art, it's timeless. I didn't choose the Warbringer style because it's a bit more complicated, and my own style is very... I'm not loose. That is something that I'm struggling with. I want to be more loose, to be able to create more depth and to create more dynamic scenes, and this is part of why I wanted to make this challenge to begin with. Therefore I chose the Burdens of Shaohao because 1, it's a little bit less detailed as the other ones, and 2, it's just so beautiful. There's a skin line from Riot that has these vibes a bit too, the Shanghai Scrolls. So for the picture, I wanted something that encapsulates the feeling of the video, as well as the storytelling, the elements, and the sketchy / watercolory style. I tried to have Amira in this one as a Pandarian because it just fits the story. I wouldn't change her to be something else, and frankly a Pandarian fits her pretty well too. I wanted to have the storm coming in, and I based it a lot on the screenshot that I got from above. Thing is, this didn't really come out well, and this time it's not because I'm tired, but it's because I'm not used to this style. This style is so rough yet so polished. It's something you can't really replicate unless you have experience with it. No matter how much I try to look at what I'm seeing and to do it exactly the same, it won't be exactly the same because there's a lot of muscle memory and experience in these pictures to have them as detailed and yet as simple as they are. I struggled a little bit with the depth of the picture. Mine felt very 2D, while theirs not only had a sense of space but also had much better contrast, and I tried to fix that towards the end. And while my picture has a little bit of the metaphoric feeling vibe, I didn't capture the storytelling vibe. It doesn't feel like it's part of a story unfolding. It feels static, it feels like illustration, and that is true that I am an illustrator, that is what I'm doing. I want it to feel more like a story, like a picture you took while watching a story, rather than just a still picture of a pretty moment. That is something that I really want to push my art towards, and I hope at the end of this challenge I am able to have a different outlook and a different set of skills in order to do that. Genshin Impact came out and revolutionized the way people design characters, with the specific fantasy and hyper-detailed anime style. Today I tried to attempt this style, which is a bit difficult considering I don't have a set theme like a company would. I tried to use the aesthetic of a thief, something I used in the past prompts for Ami, and to play around with the concept of a clover, in this context meaning luck. I think a concept based on luck personified will be a fun premise to explore within Genshin. Something like her attacks or her abilities, they can be based on luck, but not in the sense that they can miss or like in the sense of RNG. Just the concept, she's doing X thing because it's out of luck, and it can be purple or it can be red based on luck, without necessarily changing the gameplay aspect. Something like that, something gimmicky like that, I think will be fun. I used the clover symbol all over her outfit, keeping in mind not to make her too similar to Klee. I kept in mind the game-specific details, for example the symmetry of 3D models, high contrast. I constantly checked the contrast of my colors, and I focused towards the torso and the head area with the brightest colors because these are often the main points of interest in Genshin characters. And I also kept in mind horror-specific style, which focuses a lot on asymmetry. Usually, asymmetry in character design is used to portray a chaotic character or duality of a character, and while Genshin Impact does keep the theory behind asymmetry for some characters, it adds to their duality. For other characters, it's simply a aesthetic choice, and that is something that Genshin really made people like, and you can see it as a trend a whole lot, maybe a little bit less recently, but you could see it as a trend a whole lot through VTubers who use this hyper detailed anime style. I used sharp edges as her main shape language, combined with subtle round shapes to show her otherwise happy-go-lucky attitude once you get to know her. This also contrasts Klee, which also uses the clover, but uses very round shape language overall to solidify her personality. I thought a hoodie would be a cool addition to make her stand out from the other Genshin characters, and as a color scheme I went with green, partially because of the clover theme, but also because it's something you don't really expect from a character using pyro, and because there are not many characters who use pure green. I made sure I don't get too close to Lila or to Jean by using the pants design or the hoodie. Amira's vision is pyro, fitting her personality the most. Towards the end of the process, I moved her vision on her arm. I based that on the expression, "Where's her heart on her sleeve?" I think that encapsulates Amira's personality pretty well, and putting the vision there will be a nice metaphor. Genshin characters, while some of them are mainly focusing on the appeal, because they are in the end gacha characters, a lot of them do have symbolism hidden within the design and a lot of thoughts behind the design. design, and it's something I want to explore and to have maybe a series in the future once I'm finished with Concord. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. I tried to balance details to not feel overcrowded even if there are a lot of details, and I also tried to keep in mind the functionality of a character, something which I personally think Genshin sometimes dismisses in favor of appeal. For example, the concept of teeth I still wanted to be obvious. For her weapon, a bow, daggers, or even throwing weapons like axes could work. I think I nailed the overall aesthetic. I don't like the shoes, and that is on me because I simply don't like designing shoes. I am the most uninspired person when it comes to that, and props to every artist who is able to draw shoes, that is not me. But overall, I think it's a solid, pretty simple design, to be honest. I don't think it's a amazing design, but that is also because I am doing this in a couple of hours, and towards the end I adjusted her colors to feel a bit more cohesive and to really push the vibrance and the focus towards her head. Let me know what you think, and let me know which region do you think she would fit in. That is something I didn't decide, and that can also influence her outfit and her general vibe. Adding onto why this is pretty simple right now is just a concept, it's just a initial concept of what could be explored further. Today is day 21 and I decided to do something different. My initial prompt was Caroline, and it's still the month of Halloween, I know, but I thought, why not switch things up, because I always wanted to try food art. And then you're going to raise your eyebrow and be like, how can you draw your character in food art? Well, I can't. That's why I'm drawing what I ate yesterday. This is not my picture, this is from the internet, and I'm using today as inspiration the artist Itadaki Yasu. You can find them on Twitter. Food art is a really interesting niche of art because it can be so stylized while being so realistic, and the effect these artists make by putting the exact amount of detail, it's always so fascinating to me, and I always wanted to try it. I did have an attempt at drawing food art and I was super proud of it back in the day. It's a book cover I've drawn, but looking back at it, I think it's quite bad. I still like the title and the positioning on everything, but I can't get the credit fully for that because it's partially the suggestion my friend whose cover this belongs to. I pulled out some references from Itadaki and I studied a little bit. The things that I want to be able to capture are the details within the black outline. That is, I think, that gives the most food art aspect of food art. I'm not sure how to explain it, that's just how it looks like to me. And bear in mind, I'm very unexperienced with this. I'm not drawing food art, and I'm not really drawing realism either. I just wanted a little break from characters today, and this is still a very interesting art style I can try and explore, and that is what the challenge is for. I started by outlining the general shapes. I didn't do the line art right away. The way I saw Itadaki doing this in the process video is by first having the very clean outline, which I suck at, and then having the colors, and then starting to render everything within each shape. I tried to approach it like that too, without the line art, because I wanted to kind of avoid doing that sharp line art. So I started by having the general shape of everything and the general placement of everything. And then I'm not sure if Itadaki is color picking his references. I did, and I just adjusted the colors a little bit. And let me tell you, the process of drawing every single thing, it's actually quite tedious. He makes it look easy because the concept of intention of detail. If you zoom out, you look at it and you're like, wow, so many details. And there are quite a lot of details. But if you zoom in, details are so intentional that they are enough to make your brain think it is what it needs to be. And I am very bad at that. And I want to get better at it. Not just for food art, but for my general illustrations as well. Another thing that I noticed is that first he's putting down the chunks of different color variation of everything before they start to go in and to render everything. So I tried to do that. I tried to put every color I see on the reference onto my picture, and I actually cut out a lot of this video because it took me an embarrassing amount of time to finish this piece of art, but surprisingly it was quite relaxing to do this. Even if the details are so little and so diverse and so many of them, it didn't feel stressful, and at first I was feeling very stressed about it. The process itself was feeling relaxing, and this is where I ended up the drawing process. I think for having almost no experience with food art, I did pretty well. It's definitely an improvement from my first attempt, and it was a nice change of pace from drawing characters every single day. Day 22, and I had so much to do today. I barely had time to draw, but I have a concept for you guys, and that is a quick Hades character. When the war raged and the earth itself wept molten tears, one mortal refused to yield. Her body was claimed by the flames, yet her will did not fade. It blazed brighter still, a defiance that reached beyond life and death. As night fell upon the scorched field, Nyx took notice of the lingering ember that refused to dim. From the ember, she shaped Amira, neither goddess nor ghost, but the incarnation of unwielding will. The fire that once consumed her dances beneath her skin, tempered by the night's cold. Amira walks the underworld as a living spark of rebellion, a reminder that some lights burn not for glory, but simply because they refuse to go out. Amira's concept in this universe is based on the undying soldier, hence why her outfit is very fighty. I try to incorporate motifs from the children of Nyx, as you can see in my references, and the concept that she died burning alive. As part of her design, I also kept in mind the concept of will. What does it mean to have willpower? It means to never give up, it means to get dirty, it means to be messy. So all of these are part of her design, with the messy cut hair, with the arms being burnt and dirty, even though she is wearing gold, because will is and should be something that we take pride in. The purple on her cape is symbolizing Nyx, the goddess that took her in, and the goddess that is tempering her. I still hope you enjoy this. I couldn't pass the chance to draw Hades. I hope one day I can return to this and polish it, because the Hades style is so amazing, filled with symbolism and very fun and unique character designs. That is all I have for today with Amira, the Will Incarnate. I hope you like it. I really wanted to do this, even though I can't give it my all, but I hope you still enjoy it, and I know I did. Day 23, the last day of week 3, and I have something very special, which is pixel art. I've always been fascinated by pixel art. I think it's such a amazing niche of art. I've always wanted to try to draw in this style, and today I took the time to learn a little bit about the principles. If you're not aware, pixel art actually has different principles than normal art. Besides all the knowledge as it being art, you have particularities because it's working with pixels. I've studied some tutorials in order to understand the way that I should make the lines and the way I should clean out my work, and I downloaded this free brush set from Diego Sanchez. It has the sketching brush you see me using right now. It has a eraser brush because the normal eraser is going to depixelate your pixel. I'm not sure about the specifics. I'm very new about this, so bear with me. And it also has some patterned brushes. I started by doing a sketch, which I'm not sure it's something pixel artists do, but I had to. And then I took the time to have every single line in the correct position. Now, there are 3 things that I discovered while doing this. First of all, I had to slow down so much because at one point I was literally putting down pixel by pixel. That is so amazing. That is such a amazing opportunity to remind yourself that art is a form of creation. You're creating something from scratch. I had such an amazing feeling. I'm recommending this experiment to everyone. And two, I discovered that once you put down your pixels, your art, on the canvas, at least at the resolution I am using, which I'm not sure is the correct one, it's 144 by 144, you can't adjust it. I tried to make it a little bit bigger. It's completely messed up the pixels. Therefore, I had to make sure the composition I'm making is correct from the get-go. So that is also something you don't really have with normal digital art. It actually feels more like traditional in that sense. I went the demon horror approach for this one because pixel art reminds me so much of the old horror pixel games I used to play when I was younger. I think there's a special eeriness that comes from something as simple yet as intricate as pixel art that makes it so good for horror or for eerie aesthetics. If you just write pixel art on Twitter of amazing artists who use this style to create amazing scenes. Depends on the style you use. I noticed there are more styles you can do besides using the pixel art technique. You also have the style of mobile games, which is also super cute, and I think I will have a lot of fun trying to draw in that style. But for this one I wanted to go a little bit more old school for the reasons I mentioned before, and I think I did a pretty good job at it. It does give me the vibe of a sprite of a game where you have an interaction with an NPC and the picture appears on the screen alongside the text, and then you have a surprise that they are actually a demonic being or something like that. The initial way I colored this was very simple and almost too 2D. It felt too flat, so I tried to push it a little bit and to have more coverage, and that was so worth it because the final product, it's really good. It has the right amount of emotion, and it wasn't hard either. It was just very intentional. Every single thing I put down, I thought about it, and it's weird because it's not different necessarily from doing illustrations. There are moments during a illustration process where I can turn off my brain. After I'm putting down all the colors and all the shadows and all the lights and everything, I can turn off my brain and just paint. Here I didn't have that luxury. I had to think about every single pixel, even in the light, even in the dark. And speaking of, the highlights give me some troubles. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do them correctly. I think it also depends on the style of the artist. So I tried a few placements for the highlights until I was satisfied, and this is the pixel art prompt. I enjoyed this so much. I really wish to draw more in this style, and I think I might put this in the grab bag event I'm having in December. That's like a little teaser for you. And that was week 3 of STYLETOBER. I overestimated it a little bit, but I'm still going, even if I had to tweak a little bit the initial prompt list. But I made it this far. I am pretty hopeful I'm going to make it till the end, and I hope you enjoyed what I had for you today. Don't forget, I am posting every single day in all the socials, and you can get early access to all the process videos and all my yappings on my Patreon. It will mean so much if you're able to support me over there, but know that every comment, every like, I am reading everything, I'm answering everything, and I'm so grateful for every one of you who are watching my videos. I want to be able to do this full time, and your support is always going to matter. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye!